Hollywood is slowly starting to show tiny bits of self-awareness. Behind the stunning job losses in Hollywood, the audience has moved on. They're starting to understand. Yeah, there's only so long you can insult your own audience, outright refuse to give them what they're asking for before they just move on. And at this point, course correction is no longer possible. You can't course correct once you've already driven off the cliff. You can only course correct before you go over the edge. Hollywood, they've gone over the edge. All the fans they've driven away, like this headline states, they've moved on. They found alternatives. They have no reason to come back. They will not be coming back. And you have only yourselves to blame. The iron fist of history seems finally to be coming for Tinseltown. Hey, but at least you're going to be on the right side of that history, am I right? Worth it! Beyond the financial blows inflicted by the pandemic and the actors and writers strikes, the vast LA-based entertainment industry known as Hollywood is facing a far greater forces of economic disruption that have already struck the rest of the U.S. Much like manufacturing, agriculture, and other major segments of the U.S. economy before it, the result for Hollywood appears to be mixed. A possible return to prosperity and good times for some, even tighter times for others. Yeah, the few studios that start making movies on much smaller budgets and focusing on giving fans what they want, they will see success. But I think if we're not there already, we're close to the end of billion-dollar movies. If Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't hit $1 billion, I think it's over. Now, there's something of an existential question mark over large swaths of traditional Hollywood economy, said Stuart Ford, chairman and chief executive of LA-based AGC Solutions, which develops, produces, finances, and licenses films and television series. Well, you guys are going to have to find another profession now. Now, the decades-long way of making money in the film and TV industry has been turned upside down by new technologies, changing public appetites, and the globalization of the workforce. And let's not forget, a lot of the reason they're losing money is because Hollywood themselves killed theaters. It was a 1-2 punch of producing content nobody wants to pay to see, and then making things for their streaming services at the expense of theaters. And now theaters are going out of business faster than comic book shops, and they wonder where all the money is. And the key thing here is that you have so many things that are happening at once, it's really hard for anyone to feel confident. You're right, said Kevin Cloud, an economics expert at the Milken Institute who has done extensive research on California's entertainment industry. Let me guess, it's dead, right? Now, there's very, very real question right now on the business side that it's playing out because nobody's quite sure about of the economics. Oh, you know what they mean by that? I think they mean the streaming services. So we're pretty much at the end of the time when streaming services would throw tens of millions of dollars at projects just to have something to put on their streaming service. That's not going to be happening anymore. We covered previously, like Apple, Amazon, and Netflix, all of them are considering a different pay structure that'll pay production, like the actors, the production crews, etc., on that work on these shows and movies based on how many people actually watch them. Oh yeah, things are about to get real down in Hollywood. What is clear is that the numbers are bleak for box office receipts, film activity, and especially employment. Yeah, what were people like me saying throughout the entire strikes last year? That they're likely going to get everything they're demanding, if not more, but only like a third to half the people there are going to see those benefits because the rest are going to lose their jobs. This is the same thing that happens every time the minimum wage increases. Any given fast food place will fire like half their employees, but hey, the half that are still there get more money, right? Worth it. Yeah, sucks to be those that got fired, though. Coming out of the strikes in the fall, many expected a rebound in local film and TV jobs, but employment in LA County's motion pictures and sound recording industries, the main category for film and television production, has barely budged from about 100,000 through April, which is about 20% less than pre-pandemic levels. Aside from the early months of Corona Chan in current year -4, the strikes in the summer last year, employment in the sector hasn't been this low in more than 30 years, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it's not going to get any better, especially when you add AI to the mix. They're going to be hiring even less people now. Yeah, so congratulations. Those of you that are still going to be left in the industry, yeah, I hope you enjoy all the benefits you got from this latest strike. But your comrades that are now on the unemployment line, they're not going to be enjoying it. The effect on lost wages and purchasing power is significant for the regional economy. Employees in the motion picture and sound recording industries earned on average $2,600 a week last year. A week? Holy sh! Do you have any idea how long I had to work to make that in a month? Oh my God. Then these clowns are making $10,000 a month, and they still cry that it's not enough. Making up a total of 5% of LA County's wages in the private sector, although less than 3% of employment. There are tens of thousands more people in Southern California who work for Hollywood as freelancers and contractors, but aren't counted in overall government payroll data. Taken together, they make up the biggest concentration of entertainment industry workers in the world and are, well, not for long. Oh, I think at this point, it's not just the globalization of the workforce, but globalization of the creatives. Like, that's why anime and manga is taking over. Westerners like Japanese entertainment made for Japanese audiences better than the stuff they got here. And it's the same for other things like Bollywood or manhwa. There's other countries in the world that are getting in on this too, as they should be. And a part of the explanation for why California's overall labor market is lagging behind the nation's. Well, it's because it's California. What's disrupting the future for entertainment industry workers is much like what began convulsing U.S. manufacturing decades ago. New technology that has transformed the business and reduced the need for workers, as well as the rise of cheaper production sites elsewhere in the U.S. and abroad. And let's not forget Hollywood themselves driving their own fans away. So to use another one of my favorite analogies, imagine you had a favorite restaurant. It was a habit that you went out to eat at that restaurant once a week. Every weekend, you went out to your favorite restaurant and you ate at that restaurant. And then one day, they started spitting in your food. And you kept complaining, like, hey, can you guys stop spitting in my food? Oh, whatever, bigot. If you don't like spit in your food, then we don't want you as a customer anyway. So eventually you'd stop going, right? And then imagine that everyone stops going. And now that restaurant has fallen on hard times. They're like a month away from shutting down. Now suddenly they're trying to win you back. Like they're sending you spam in the mail. Hey, come back. Try out our new spit-free menu. Hey, remember us? Oh, look, we're going back, guys. Who'd actually come back? Like, would you actually trust them to not spit in your food anymore? Because I wouldn't. Especially if while you were not going there anymore, you found another restaurant that you actually liked better. That's the perfect storm for them. They chased away their audience. Their audience actually found something they liked better. It's over. No one's coming back. That's the position Hollywood is in right now. Even before the strike, studios had already dramatically cut back on spending on new shows after so-called streaming wars when companies lavished huge amounts of money on direct-to-digital content to compete with Netflix. Yeah, so after all the streaming wars were done, Netflix is the only one left standing anyway. That's kind of funny. So globally, film and TV production lagged about 7% in the first quarter of current year compared to the same period in current year -1. LA probably will remain a thriving center for those who work at the top of the film and TV industry, except the film and TV industry will be much smaller than they used to be. You could still be at the top, but you'll be at the top of a tiny hill instead of a mountain. But much of the production and distribution work may continue to move elsewhere, and including to other industries entirely, mind you. Toronto, for example, has long been an attractive alternative location for shooting movies, and while the streets of New York are widely used for television, in recent years, a host of other locations, including in Atlanta, have been cutting into LA's share of the business. In fact, outside of LA, the film and TV industry's payrolls nationally have largely recovered, reflecting in part California's high costs and the long term outflow of production to other locales, including Atlanta, Vancouver, and London. Oh, and not only that, new locations are springing up as well. California's shares of U.S. employment in motion pictures and sound recording is now down to less than 30% from almost 40% just a decade ago. Once it's down to 0%, then we might expect things to recover a little bit. But it's going to take a long, long time. So the economic ripple effects are being felt across the region, including by prop manufacturers, design studios, talent agencies, and the scores of caterers and ancillary businesses servicing Hollywood. Oh my God, think of the child traffickers. I feel like I'm starting my business all over again, said Ryan Johnson, president of New Rule FX, a special effects prop maker in Van Nuys, who has been in the industry since the early 90s. With demand slacking for such products as fake blood, rubber glass, and breakaway furniture, Johnson has said that he has to tap all his loan and credit lines on multiple occasions to pay his 7 employees. The some so-called below-the-line crew members, that includes boom operators, costume designers, camera operators, are going back to school and rewriting their resumes to try their luck in different fields such as manufacturing, engineering, and business services. This is what the smart people do. They see the industry they're in is dying and they pivot to a different industry. These are the guys that'll be successful. And as I was talking about with a friend earlier, it's like, was it mid 40s is when a lot of people reinvent themselves and jump careers? Gotta be plenty of chances, man. The world also looks topsy-turvy in the offices of studio executives and for the so-called showrunners who call the shots on television series, amid waves of consolidation and reorganization, which again is endemic to a dying industry. These constant consolidations and buyouts and reorgs, like, they don't happen if the industry is thriving and healthy. Partly in reaction to the rise of Netflix, YouTube, and TikTok and other internet video platforms, legacy film studios are all asking the same questions. What can we do to win back today's audience, and how can we make money when the old business model has faded? No, for you guys in Hollywood, there's nothing you can do right now. Even if you adapted it right away, like if you started making actual anime that was actually good, you still wouldn't recover. Because we know you hate us personally. Now, on top of budget pressures and much higher borrowing costs, the traditional way of doing gap financing, which involves borrowing against future revenue from unsold distribution rights, a longtime part of the independent film and TV model, is not prohibitively expensive, as Ford said Ford of AGC Studios. Yeah. So it's a lot harder to gamble based on your future earnings now when a lot of surefire hits have ended up flopping. So now all of the guys with the money are like, yeah, I don't really believe you can bring in that much money anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. You're gonna have to pay this up front. I don't trust you to deliver in the future. Private equity partners and even more enamored Chinese investors, all previously drawn by the limelight of the entertainment industry, have become scarce. Oh, so now they're complaining that China is leaving. Yeah, previously they were complaining that China is coming in, throwing money around and taking over everything. Now they're complaining that China's not bailing them out. Okay, that's actually legitimately funny to me. So nobody seems sure about the long-term viability of Hollywood's bread and butter, the feature film made for the big screen. Well, considering that Hollywood themselves killed the big screen when they went all in on streaming and sacrificed the theaters, and now the theaters are shutting down, and now even if they want to pivot back to theaters, there's no theaters left. What are you gonna do? Yeah, the China version of gentrification and then white flight. Ain't that the truth? Is this time really different? Yes, it is. Because there's plenty of better alternatives and they chased their own audiences away. So nothing comes close to the breadth and depth of the industry's economic crisis today, except what happened in the early 1950s. Another period of technological upheaval when television became ubiquitous in American homes. Television hit as federal antitrust lawsuits broke up studios' control over theaters. So by the end of that decade, movie attendance had fallen by more than half from its peak in 1948, when some 90 million Americans and about 2/3 of the population went to the movies every week. Yeah, back then there was literally nothing else to do for the most part. So people went to the movies because there was nothing else to do. Now you could play video games, you could read manga, you could watch anime. You could entertain yourself in a multitude of other ways thanks to the internet. That is one of the reasons Hollywood is declining, just because there's plenty of other things to do. Like when your industry was only kept afloat because people had nothing better to do than support your industry, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. But what the hell? Why am I trying to help them? Why am I trying to give them advice? So, according to Edward J. Epstein in his book, The Hollywood Economist, in that crisis, Hollywood reinvented its business model. It began producing television programs, and that opened a whole new way of making money, producing made-for-TV movies and selling the rights to reruns, merchandise, and of course, feature films on to networks with distribution to foreign markets as well. In later years, the sales of videotapes and DVDs, as well as licensing deals with cable TV, ensured a steady flow of residual revenues for studios and key creators and actors. But what's different this time is the threat is coming from multiple fronts. And while all this is happening, they're also actively chasing away their own audiences. They are refusing to make the content their audiences want and are asking for. So the extraordinary back-to-back strikes in the summer of last year virtually halted production and caused long-lasting disruption to shooting schedules this year and next. So serious question. Did anyone even notice or care that Hollywood ground to a halt? Outside of watching channels like mine that were laughing at the state of Hollywood during the strikes, would you have even known strikes were happening? Because I didn't notice anything of value gone. Unless you're a cinemaphile, unless you're a big movie buff, nobody fucking noticed. Only the fanboys, only the movie buffs. They're the only ones that noticed or cared. Or maybe if you're a boomer that just out of habit left late night talk shows on and noticed they were gone. But nobody actually watches that crap anymore, so At the same time, the popularity of streaming led by Netflix has cut into not only the theater attendance and DVD sales, but also licensing and reselling revenues that studios long enjoyed. Disney, Paramount, and others have joined the streaming bandwagon, but to succeed, they need enough long-term subscribers. Not so easy when many cancel after watching the particular programs that drew them in. Now, let's think about this from Disney's perspective. Imagine you're Disney, and this is before they launched Disney Plus, and Netflix exists. Netflix pays you money to license your content to show on their platform. Your movies are still doing great. People still show up to the movies, pay you, you make a lot of money. And then after you make money from the theaters, you put it on Netflix and you keep making more money from the royalties Netflix pays you. You know what would be even better? If you made your own streaming service that costs you tens of billions of dollars, that you make content for and put on the service, and no one pays you a license fee for it. And now you're reliant on people, like new subscribers coming in to make any more money. And by the end of it, you've thrown away like $20+ billion. Was that worth it? You've gone from other companies paying you money to show your content, basically free money getting put in your pocket for no additional work on your part, to having to do all the work yourself, not getting paid for it, and also getting further into debt. Whoever made those business decisions needs to be fired. Analysts have no doubt that traditional studios are still capable of making great movies. The question is whether the public remains interested in watching a 2.5-hour feature film inside a theater. The answer is no. So a combination of Corona-chan and the government's lockdowns in response to it, and then the strikes, and then Hollywood making bad content. Like movie theaters, they're going to be just like stage theaters soon. Like they're going to be a niche thing. You're only going to have like they're only going to be in a few major cities, and there's not going to be that many of them. Yeah, movie theaters are done. They better adapt. Like maybe throw live parties for sporting events or something. But yeah, movie theaters are done. Now, over the last 15 years, Hollywood rode the superhero genre with movies such as Spider-Man and the Avengers films, but that run appears to be on its last legs, and nothing has come to replace it. Yeah, because they refuse to make good content. As said Jonathan Kuntz, a film historian at UCLA, the reaction to last year's twin blockbusters Barbie and Oppenheimer essentially papered over the industry's core challenge of exciting the public at the box office. Yeah, they waited too long. Like the public already walked away. Too late for course correction now. So the very basis of what made Hollywood University popular in the 20th century was the theatrical feature film. No, the very basis of what made them popular was lack of anything else to do. When you had nothing else to do but go to the theaters, yeah, theaters are going to be popular. Now you could occupy yourself and have way more fun for way less money at home. So that seems to be ending now. Kuhn said it seems the audience has moved on to other things. Yeah. And part of that is Hollywood's fault. Combination of making bad content for too long and actively telling their fans to move on to other things. When you tell your fans you don't want them as customers, don't cry when they leave. Charlie Fink, the former Disney executive who teaches at Chapman University, chalks up the malaise to the fact that people have other things to do with their screens. Yes, that's what I just said too, isn't it? They have other options. They don't have to put up with Hollywood. They prefer to spend their time on YouTube and play video games on their phones, and that's a problem for Hollywood. Well, I guess Hollywood is going to have to start making YouTube videos and producing video games then. As U.S. movie attendance has floundered, the international market has grown even more important. But I wish they would appeal more to the international market because it would be less woke. No, but U.S. producers are facing more competition from South Korea, India, and other countries producing what's popular with their audiences at home and beyond, including in U.S. audiences. Nor can major U.S. studios count on the big China market as it once hoped. Beijing still maintains strict limit on foreign film showings. Many Chinese are downloading pirated versions of even first-run U.S. movies, and dreams of a U.S.-China co-production basically died with the flop of the Great Wall in current year -8. The Stanley Rosen, expert on the Chinese film and politics at USC. It would be great if they had China, he said, but you can't really rely on China. So they threw away their American audience to pander to China. And now China went and abandoned them. And hey, they deserve to be abandoned. Now, with production and budget scaled back, film and TV producers have been opting for cheaper places to shoot. Or better yet, they've been paying to license foreign content that's already been made. Way better investment. The wages matter, of course, but while producers and directors in LA on average earn 40% more than those in Atlanta, for example, when it comes to crews, the difference is only about 10% for sound engineers, camera operators, lighting technicians, according to May current year -1 figures in the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, but so producers and directors earn 40% more, but it's only 10% more for the frontline workers. There's considerably more frontline workers than producers and directors, though. So their 10% probably makes up a lot more money. Where there's a bigger gap is in government support for filming. Georgia has no cap on tax credit incentives, which also cover actors' salaries, nor does the United Kingdom. And New York State lawmakers last year sharply boosted the annual film tax credit allocation to $700 million, double California's today. Yeah, so California got lazy. They took the film industry for granted. They just like, well, where else are you going to go? Well, turns out literally anywhere. They're in most shooting locations outside LA, the entertainment employment base can still be a limiting factor. That's why people from Southern California are often brought in to supplement and lead local projects. But not so much these days, he said. If the productions are cut back and the budgets are trimmed, a major place to see those cuts is in not employing the workers from out of state who need their travel costs covered. And if you expect them to foot the bill themselves, you're going to cause a problem. Now, what worries experts is as local film industry workers continue to struggle, many will leave the area or quit the business outright because it's so expensive to build a career and live in LA. You're right. You're absolutely right. How about give up on LA? Employers such as Johnson Ural Effects, the prop manufacturer in the Valley, said that after the pandemic waned and business rebounded, many of his employees left the LA area due to the high cost of living. Well, you're just going to have to allow remote work. For all the current challenges, one huge advantage is that no place has been able to replicate the vast pool of creative and technical capabilities and infrastructure built up over a century in the area. You're still looking at it from the wrong perspective, though. You're looking at it from the perspective of rebuilding a new Hollywood somewhere else with the exact same skill sets needed. But a lot of your audience, like, they're not replacing Hollywood with Bollywood, as much as we laugh at that happening in the cases where that is the case. They're replacing Hollywood with video games, with YouTube, with reading manga. We're going back to books. You're not going to need another Hollywood. There's not going to be a demand for it anymore. People are moving on to other things entirely. People aren't watching as many movies or as much TV anymore. They'd rather play mobile games. Mobile games at least don't insult them. And maybe that's because there's a culture in LA of people coming here, not just to live here. A lot of people come here to partake of their dream. Said Rick Carter, production designer and art director known for his work on Jurassic Park and Avatar. Carter, 74, grew up in the film business. His father was a publicist for Jack Lemmon, and he has seen the industry adapt to similar pressures from new technologies and shifting audience tastes. This makes me laugh, as if Hollywood cares about shifting audience tastes. We've been telling them for the past 15 years we don't like the garbage they're putting out, and they just call us bigots and say they don't want us as customers. The fact that they didn't adapt to their audience's tastes is why they're going to die now. And if you take all those combustible elements, each one would itself be really tough, he said, of the current climate. I don't know whether we're resilient enough to find a way to move forward. See, at least he's smart enough to know that, yeah, this time it's different. Yeah, at least previously we could count on our loyal fans to have our backs. But now, we filled our loyal fans' backs with so many knives, I don't think they're going to come around anymore. They're literally on their own, and they have only themselves to blame.